Hi, and welcome to the executive interview series. Today, we have a guest who will shed light on a company that is at the forefront of revolutionizing the renewable energy industry. Joining us is Dr. Tom Algie, the CEO of GridShare. GridShare is a platform company that develops, operates, and invests in data center projects to address the challenges of renewable energy supply and demand imbalances. Thank you for joining me today, Tom.
You're welcome.
Amazing. Now, let us start with an overview of GridShare and its unique position in the renewable energy market. So, can you tell us how GridShare addresses the challenges of integrating renewables into the grid?
Absolutely. And so I'd like to begin with a little bit of the origin story of GridShare. And so where this idea and concept really came from was myself and the other co-founders, we really understood or saw the need or problem with more renewable energy in the world. Countries are already grappling with too much renewable energy onto a grid. And the main problem is you cannot match the supply with demand. You cannot tell the wind to blow and the sun to shine when you need it to. And so therefore you have these imbalances between supply and demand. And there are lots of mechanisms where, and a lot of companies are addressing this through battery storage and other means. But we saw an absolute, need to help address this from the demand side management. So being able to provide flexibility in when and where you consume power can create a lot of benefit for renewable energies themselves and also grids. And so that is our unique value proposition. We build data centers and we operate those data centers with a twist. We can ramp power of our data centers, ramp the power consumption of our data centers very rapidly. And that's the technology that we've built. And through that, we're able to provide support to renewable energies, wind, solar, hydro, the like, as well as being able to provide grid balancing services, so more technical services to a grid.
Amazing. That's very fascinating indeed, Tom. Now, can you elaborate a bit further on what actually sets GridShare apart from its competitors in terms of, the expertise, experience, and innovative technology? You've talked about some of the points, but anything else that you would like to add?
Yes, I think there's sort of three key points here. One is really, I think, the team that we've got and the experience that we have. We've got on the team is a very, very deep sort of commercial background. And so we're very good at finding and deploying infrastructure projects. I come from a commercial background, a consulting background, as well as our chief commercial officer who headed a capital group at a major ASX listed firm. And so we come from a commercial background. We also come from a technical background. And so one of the co-founders, Sam, he's the one that's really developed the IP and the technology with being able to control the power consumptions of our data centers. And so our experience and our background with that, coupled with, I think, our board and our advisory board, which has a wealth of experience in energy and power sectors, I think is one of the pieces that stand us apart. The other one is our track record. And so we do have we have deployed projects in this space. We have an operation in New Zealand. That operation has been running for a year. It is profitable. So we've already built and operating a profitable project in the space. We've got our second project contracted and looking to deploy that shortly. And so we do have a good track record of doing this. It's proven the model, it's making money. And thirdly is really our vision regarding the technology and the IP that we want to create around this. I mentioned we've already created a lot of IP regarding how we control power on the data centers. We want to integrate even more energy services into our data centers. For example, things like voltage control, being able to provide reactive power, which is quite a technical concept, but being able to provide reactive power into a grid to help manage voltage stability is something that we are working on currently with the university. And so I think the combination of the team, the track record, and the sort of the IP that we've got really stands us apart.
That's very impressive, Tom. Now let's talk about the financial aspect. So can you highlight some key financial achievements and milestones that GridShare has accomplished so far?
Yes, absolutely. So as I mentioned, the operation in New Zealand has been running for a year now. Prior to that, I did a pre-seed round investment, raised a few $1 million. That got mostly spent on building the assets that we deployed in New Zealand. And to date, as I mentioned, that's profitable. It's running at over $1 million a year in revenue. And every month that's actually expanding because we are building the capacity there. We are growing the operation at that particular site. And so every month we're actually increasing the amount of revenue that we've generated from that. In addition, as I mentioned also, we have our second project that we've almost contracted. The beauty about these projects is that they are very high cash flow from day one, and they are quite fast to deploy. And so we're looking to be operating there in the next 6 months, and that will substantially increase cash flows into the group. It's 2.5 times the size of our operation in New Zealand, and so it'll create a major step change in the financials as well.
Amazing. That sounds very promising indeed, Tom. Now, speaking of the growth prospects, could you provide some more insights into the upcoming projects in GridShare's pipeline and how they actually contribute to the company's growth?
Yes, absolutely. So I think I've mentioned before, we have one operation in New Zealand. We have another one that's contracted in Australia. The energy company that we're working with for our New Zealand operation is so happy with the relationship that we have with them that they are wanting to do more sites. And so we have some very attractive potential new projects or growth aspects with them, partnering with them at different sites in New Zealand. In the Australian context, we have a list of around 30 different projects that are in various stages of discussion, from wind farms to grid connected to hydro, all throughout Australia. And so there is a very healthy project pipeline that we are working on. In addition, we've recently made the final 15 of a global clean tech program called Free Electrons. In that program, we have had exposure to 7 global utility companies, 4 of which have very much expressed interest in doing a project with us. One of those companies is Australian. It's an Australian energy company, Origin Energy. The other 3 are from the USA. So American Electric Power from the USA. We are in discussions with a Portuguese energy company and an Irish energy company. And so we have not only strong growth aspects in New Zealand and Australia, but also globally as well.
Amazing. These are very impressive growth prospects indeed. Now, Tom, as we consider the market opportunity for GridShare, could you elaborate on the potential impact of global energy transition and how GridShare is actually positioned to capitalize on this growing market?
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely. Look, we started this business very much from the energy side. We didn't start it from a data center perspective. We've used the data centers as a tool. But I think the point being is that we are very much across all of the different challenges with the energy transition, and can actually see not only the benefit that we can provide through demand response, so being flexible about when we consume power, the technical I guess services over and above that, like frequency response on a grid and also voltage control. Those are critical reliability measures that grids need in order to be able to transition away from fossil fuels. And so I think we're excellently placed to provide a range of services to support the energy transition in this space. And I think that's evident by how many different potential projects we have. Renewable energy generators and grids really like what we do, and therefore they want to talk to us, they want to do business with us. In addition, there is further opportunities that I have my sights on, including methane abatement, specifically from landfills. So our technology actually applies to a total off-grid solution as well. So landfills that might not be able to do anything with their methane, For example, they might be too far away from an electricity grid. We can actually build the infrastructure and provide a channel to use that methane, convert it to electricity, and therefore actually do a lot of good in methane abatement as well. And so that's another area where we can really help the global energy transition.
Yeah, absolutely. It sounds very promising indeed. Now, lastly, Tom, let's touch upon the future milestones. So, could you share some key achievements and milestones that GridShare aims to accomplish in the coming years?
Yep. And really, the strategy that we have is fairly simple at the moment. It's broken into three main pieces. The first piece is delivering good projects. And so, beneath that, there's a whole raft of projects that we want to deliver. We're standing up the Australian project. We're expanding in New Zealand. We've got other projects that we want to deliver in New Zealand. But we have a target of 5 or so of these data centers across Australia and New Zealand in the next couple of years. In addition, we are, as I mentioned before, we are in discussions with some global utilities. So setting our sights on doing projects globally as well. That's the first tranche. The second tranche is really on the R&D space. And so continuing to develop our energy services, and I've mentioned this previously regarding voltage control, as well as branching out into other uses for data centers like methane abatement. And so we have a big plan on what we're wanting to do R&D wise. We've already commenced that with in collaboration with the university. And so that's the second tranche. And really the third tranche is sort of what supports that, which is the investment and the business structuring. And so, we are obviously needing investment to stand everything up, as well as financial investment in each project. And so that's really the third tranche, and it underwrites the sort of the main strategy of the business.
Brilliant. Well, thank you, Tom, for providing us with these valuable insights into GridShare and its future potential. It has truly been a pleasure to have you here today for this interview. For those who are interested in learning more about GridShare, please feel free to contact Tom and his team by seeing the details at the side of your screen or in the description of the video. And stay tuned for our next episode of the Executive Interview Series, where we will continue to bring you thought-provoking conversations with industry leaders. And once again, Tom, thank you for your time, and we wish you every success with your venture.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.